Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to be quickly showing you guys how to use AJAX with JSP and JavaScript and hitting Java on the server. So this will be mainly basically how to do JSP to Java AJAX calls. So let's get this project all set up. So we're going to give a name here, how to AJAX JSP. We're going to be running Tomcat 7 because the web module is 3. Okay, next, next. We're going to generate the web.xml. Okay. So now we have our basic setup where we put all the Java resources in the Java source. So we're going to create a new package here, not interface package. And we'll call it com.ajax.servlets, and that will be where all of our servlets will be placed. We'll create a new folder here called CSS, which will be where our CSS file will be placed, and another folder called JavaScript, where our JavaScript is going to be placed. So we can create them sample files now. JavaScript source file, next, basic.js. And we'll do the same with CSS file, basic.css. Okay, we'll change the char set here to UTF-8 because that's the standard for web at the moment. And we're also going to be using a JavaScript library, so I'll give you the link to download that. You can download it here. Okay, so you need to go and get that library. I have the development library handy, so I'm just going to bring it over here and stick it in my JavaScript file. And of course we're going to need a JSP file. Okay, so we'll call this index.jsp. Okay, next we're going to use the HTML, but we're going to be changing that to use HTML5 because that's new standard, right? We don't want char set ISO that one UTF-8. UTF-8 again. If you don't know what the char set and encoding types are used for, I'll show you. There's a really good article on that. So we change this from HTML4 to HTML5. We can get rid of this big long doc type. We can save that, and we can also change this meta to basically just meta char set, and then we'll change this here to UTF-8. So basically that's our HTML5 ready to go. So we can call JSP AJAX form, and I have some pre-built meta tags I'm going to insert in here. You don't need these, this is just for tutorial purpose. And then we're going to need to insert our JavaScript jQuery reference. It needs to come before the JavaScript file that we have, which is basic.javascript, which we just created. And of course our style sheet, which is CSS, not basic, and it's going to be for the whole screen. Okay, so you don't really need to worry about these media queries at the moment. That's for really, fluid web design. So that's another story. And then we'll create a nice, sweet, simple web page, and we'll create the classes as we go along. So it's going to be retitled here. How to make AJAX calls using JSP and jQuery. Okay, so we'll create a form and we'll call it update username. Okay, and inside the form we're going to have a label for username, and we'll call that what is your name. And we'll have, of course, the input type. We're going to have a text. We'll give it an ID of username. The name will also be username. Okay, so that'll be where the user will enter the username, and then we'll have an input type equals submit. So it's going to be our submit button. Okay, so basically there's our form, and that's all we really need. Because basically what this form is going to do, it's going to take a person's name or whatever they input, and it's going to make an AJAX call to the server, which is going to process that input. If it's valid, it's going to return it to the web page without reloading it, of course, and displaying that data. All using, JSP kind of format. Basically, just how to do this. And it's going to be, we're going to display the response in this here paragraph called display name. We're going to have an empty paragraph, as we want it to start off empty. And we're going to have just have a wee tag here, just about the website. That's of course where the tutorial is going to be. So that's really our view. That's really all the HTML we need, really, and very simple, right? Yep. So now we need to write our CSS. So we had I think it was a few things. We'll change the body first, okay? You have to set the body. Margin 0px auto, which is then going to change the margins around the blocks to 0, and auto is going to put it in the middle of the page. Width will be 500 pixels. Background color will also be just an off shade of white, so 6. Then we have another thing called large. So in here we can write, font size equals 20 or something big. So and then we'll have a font size small. This will be 15. And we have our display name ID, which is also a paragraph. And we want to display none, so that's going to basically wipe that off the page. It still exists, but you just won't be able to display it, so it won't be there. So then we'll use jQuery's nice features of like drop down and stuff to make it look nice. So basically what we're going to do is write our JavaScript now. So again, download that library. It'll be here, that location, and what you want to do is we're going to write a wee function here. And it'll be basically monitoring our function. So, or even our form. So when our form's submitted, it's going to automatically trigger this function and execute it, and we're going to return false from the function, so the form is actually submit, so that the user never reloads the page. So JavaScript, jQuery library has a nice ready function built in, which will check if the document is loaded first before it runs or goes this here. So it's very nice way, so it doesn't mess up your page. And of course we want to reference our form, which I call update username, I think. So submit. We're going to write another function here, so it's going to be an anonymous function inside the submit. So it's going to call this function once submit is called, and of course we're going to stick in a wee return false in this here. So return false. Okay, so JavaScript, we can then use jQuery's AJAX function. There's a lot of ways to do this, but I like this way. It's nice and simple. So basically we write where the URL we're going to, which will be update. I'm calling that at the moment, so we'll need to map the servlet to that, which I'll describe later. We're going to use post because I have a thing for post. I like post more than get. Data type, we're going to use JSON because it's very handy and nice format. Data we're going to send to the server will be from our form, which was called update username. From the ID, of course. So you can see here that we're using an ID. jQuery has a nice form called function, which is going to basically get our string, our data form, and put it in a nice format string. Okay, so success. Going to call another function, and we're going to pass in data. So data is going to be the object that gets returned if it's a success, which then we can reference the attributes inside data. So then we can write an if statement here saying if data dot is valid, which I will then put this value in here if it is valid. So if it is going to be here, and if it's not, of course, we're going to be in here. So if it's not valid, we'll do that one first. We'll put a wee message in saying, please enter valid username. Okay, if it is valid, we're gonna say, display name, just the paragraph we hid. .html. Your name is data.username, which we be storing our value in there. So that's really all you need. Oh yeah, we need to show it. So we'll do a nice wee jQuery function called slide down. So this is the milliseconds it takes, 500 milliseconds. So that's really all the jQuery and JavaScript we need for this here. So take a wee note of that, or a screenshot or something. Be very handy to use. Keep a reference if you ever have to use jQuery. We've got our CSS file, we've got our basic.javascript. So now we can try and run this on the server to view what it looks like. So hopefully it looks nice. Yep. So restart server. The server's restarting here, and hopefully it'll be fine. Okay, so yep, there's our reform. And of course, this button does nothing. Doesn't matter what we type in here. It's just gonna do nothing because we're returning false. So you're not even seeing the get string here, even when I put it in the post. Okay, so we don't need JavaScript anymore. So what we need to do now is create a servlet, which is going to handle our post request. So since we're using 3.0, we don't need to write it in the web .xml. So we don't need to write these, servlet mapping file or lines. We can do that by annotations in the servlet, which I'll show you. It's automatically ran. So we'll call this update username, and it must be placed inside the Java resources and inside the package you create. So here's our automatic servlet. So basically what's going to happen is when the user calls this update username, it's going to automatically call into here. So we want to change this to update. So that's what we had it in our JavaScript path. So basically it's going to map this URL that you've submitted the form to automatically to this here servlet. So data is already going to get submitted in here. Very handy. A lot nicer than having to write down XML, web.xml parameters. So we're doing it by post, so it's automatically going to come into here when we submit to update, which is what we, of course, are doing already. So let's get started here. So when the file comes in, basically what we're going to do is parse the request for the data, which will be username, and then we'll validate it, and it'll be a response back. So the first thing we're going to do is create a map. Okay, we're going to put a string to an object. Okay, I'll explain why we're doing this in just a second. Of course, hash map. You can have a tree map if you want, but there's no real point of having orders at this point. Well, I don't think there is. String object. Okay. We need to import these here. Okay, and the next thing, what we're going to do is we're going to write a boolean is valid. As you saw me use that in jQuery, is valid equals false. Then we're going to write get the username. So username equals request dot get parameter, and we call the username. So it's going to get this username here, okay, input username. So it's going to fill that username into here already. Okay. So then we can do some validation here. So if say username is not equal to null, username dot trim dot length equals not equals to 0. Okay, so just basic validation, and we're going to put is valid equals true. So that's our validation. So we're going to map dot put we're going to call username, and we'll put in our username. Then we're going to map dot valid, and our boolean is valid. Okay, so you're probably wondering why I'm writing these into a map, okay, because the map is a very nice feature to convert into JSON. And how we convert into JSON is Google has a very nice set of libraries which we can use that are called Gson jars. I'm going to import them from here. So you must put them in your library under the web. So now you've got the jar files here. We can then reference a line in these jar files called to JSON, and we're going to pass in the parameters of the map, and it's going to convert that into JSON format automatically for us. So the location to download them jar files is, I'll put it up the top here for you. Okay, so there's the location. Download these jar files, import them into your library, and then we can write a response to the server. Of course, you can echo it back in, whatever, plain text or whatever kind of format you want, but we were going to echo it back in JSON. So best to use the best tool out there at the moment. So we're going to create a function called write. We're going to pass in the response and our map. Okay. So inside here, we're going to have basically response dot set content type to application slash JSON. Okay, so that's basically telling them that we're going to return it as a JSON format. Response dot set character encoding to UTF-8, of course, because that's the modern way, the best way for a universal web language. Response dot, we're going to get the writer. Okay, so get writer, we're going to write, and basically we're going to use Gson. So I've just said that's Google's jar file over there, so that's what the class is called, and it has a method called to JSON, and we're going to pass in the map. Okay, so we can then import the JSON here. We'll throws just for the moment. Okay, so basically what's that got? So let me go over this again, okay? We then have an index.jsp. Here, we submit a form called update username, which has a value in it called username, which is what's going to get submitted to the server. Which is, we have a jQuery file, or jQuery function, which is on that form. So when it's submitted, we're going to then submit the data to update, and in update, this is what update will reference automatically. So we'll call it here, and of course we're using do post, as in the JavaScript file we are saying we're confirming we're using post. If it was get, it would have been in here. So then we're getting a map. It's going to map a value to another value, in our case string to object. So we're going to create a boolean is valid. If perform the validation on the username which is submitted up, if it's true, we're going to return true. If it's not true, then it's going to stay as false, so that we'll know that it's not correct, and we'll put the username in if it's true, and then we'll write the response back, changing the character encoding and content types, and return it in JSON format, which is going to return it as a JSON automatically for us. Of course, that saves us having to write out long functions on conversions. This is unnecessary if you have the tool. Basically, what we're going to do here is we're saying we're passing this as JSON, we're going to return it as JSON, and we're going to pass up the data here. On successful AJAX call, data.isValid, which will be true in our case if it's correct username, and if it's not, we'll call it here. And if it is true, then we'll get the username, which again what we put in the map, which was then stored in the JSON back. So we get the map, and of course we return false to stop the web page reloading. So basically that's most of it done, I think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on this side, but I think that should be it. So maybe we'll try and restart the server here. We'll try it out. So What is your name? Submit. Okay, so that looks like it's right. Please enter value because it's put nothing. What is your name? Start. There you go. That's it. We've called our servlet. It's processed it, returned it, and then we've updated our web page without any reloading of the page. So we up starts. Just gonna go across like that. Of course, that's basically it. And I don't know. I think up to 10 minutes. If you have any questions, get back to me. If you don't, I hope this tutorial was useful. It will aid you in any way. Okay, thanks. Make sure to check out my website, philipstart.com.